Our next speaker is a dynamic personality and truly exemplifies in showcasing her management skills. She joined Toastmasters in 2001 and has taken on several leadership positions. She was the Chief Ambassador of Pathways and the Region Advisor for Region 11. She was one of the official brand ambassadors of Toastmasters International and the recipient of the President's Citation Award for Outstanding Contribution to Toastmasters International. Speaking about how Toastmasters has influenced her, it has made her bold, beautiful, both inside and outside. Our speaker is an entrepreneur, a co-founder, and a managing partner in 3 companies. She's a licensed behavioral trainer, an NLP practitioner, and a master trainer. Apart from soft skills and management training, she facilitates wellness coaching programs that focuses on positive well-being. She's also a certified emotional intelligence coach practitioner focusing on positive psychology. She is somebody who amazes us with her time, energy, dedication, and passion. Let's now put all our focus on our pride possession, my personal mentor, distinguished Toastmaster, Radhakrishnan, for her session, Harnessing the Power of Feedback.
Thanks, everyone. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I hope you're all doing good today. Great. It's a Friday and all set. So you must be wondering, you know, the picture that was shown on the screen and the picture that you see now is a little different. I'm open for evaluations, but later and not on the chat as of now, right? Now, when you talk about evaluation, it's something that's very close to my heart, and I'll tell you why. Now, I cut my Toastmasters teeth in Kuwait, and when I was a newbie in Toastmasters, there was this lovely, lovely lady. Her name was Monique Jobidon, and I used to watch her evaluate. Now, the way she used to go about it, as soon as when she's evaluating, let's say a speaker, she comes and sits right in the front, and she will be looking at you with so much awe and so much enthusiasm, waiting for whatever that comes out from her mouth, you know, and every time she used to go off time. Now, the sincerity with which she was evaluating people, she used to go over time. The thing is, I'm not advocating that you go over time, but what I'm trying to say here is, what she was trying to imbibe is that essence of Toastmasters. You know, Toastmasters, evaluation in Toastmasters, it ties in very well with our core values. If we started giving evaluations the way we sort of imbibe our core values, the evaluations, or rather the feedback, would come out really, really positively. Because in Toastmasters, we have this method of study, action, feedback. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Whatever we do in Toastmasters, it is based on study, action, and feedback. So today, now I'm going to conduct a poll to study, because I have 2 versions of this thing, the presentation that I'm planning to make. So I need to study how many Toastmasters in the audience and how many non-Toastmasters. So Sharon, could we have the poll up and running, please? That's a 91%, which says that they are Toastmasters. So the remaining 10% are non-Toastmasters. So let me just share my screen here with you. Good. So today we talk about harnessing the power of feedback. And there is a very popular quote which comes from our very own Dr. R.C. Smedley. It says, "No Toastmaster club is fulfilling its obligation to members unless it brings them the maximum of training in the art of constructive criticism." Now, with all due respect to Dr. R.C. Smedley, I don't even want to use the term criticism. It is constructive feedback. I believe that even the term criticism has got a negative connotation about it. It is constructive analysis that we are presenting out here. And to take you through the reason, why do we give feedback in the first place? And most Toastmasters are aware that we give feedback to ensure that we give our best to the speaker who's presenting, right? Now, there are two versions. Now, what's in it for me and what's in it for them? So what's in it for me as a, what shall I say, as an evaluator? So just to put it out for you there, it helps the speaker improve and it boosts their confidence. It gives them what we call a direction and as to how to go about doing it. Now, it doesn't stop there. It's not that we are just helping just the speakers. Actually speaking, evaluators get more out of this than we care to recognize. That what's in it for me is more important, because all the qualities, all the leadership qualities that a person requires, we get from evaluating. Because you are listening skills, you are processing information, you are analyzing information, and you're reflecting on it. That's how you present your case as to how the speaker can improve, which means, in essence, we are helping ourselves in the bargain. And we are developing the art of giving positive feedback. And positive feedback is what helps us grow and the others also grow. Now, I was very, very happy to hear Fatima, who gave, she's not a Toastmaster, but yet she gave a feedback to herself. And she said that I know that I have to keep on reading to enhance my knowledge. Now, how often do people do that? Looking at themselves and giving themselves feedback? Or asking for feedback for that matter. And the good thing about this is whatever we learn in that safe atmosphere of Toastmasters, it's a transferable skill. So whatever we learn here, we are able to take it to our workplace, to our homes, and both in the professional as well as the personal life, it's going to help us. So huge take home from the evaluation segment, that is. And the thing is, the minute details, when we develop our skills as an evaluator, the minute skills which we sort of don't look at, it comes up, it pops up. Because constantly you're evaluating. I'm sure that Toastmasters, 90% of the people who are out there, they would have noticed this fact whenever they are watching something. Whenever they are, let's say, even waiting in the airport to take a trip, we are constantly evaluating, because that is the default thing that runs through us. And we are trying to see things in a better light everywhere. Yes, so moving on, there are 3 R's, what I recommend in evaluation. The first is the review aspect of it. And how do you review? Now, this is something, and this is to the 90% of the Toastmasters are out there. I noticed that not many clubs practice this, downloading the speech evaluations from Basecamp before attempting to do the evaluation in the first place. So highly recommended. This is like, what shall I say, a reminder as to how we can go about doing it. And making sure that you read the objectives and the guidelines and discuss with the speaker in terms of what their personal goals are. What is it that they are looking forward to ditching? What is it that they are looking forward to enhancing? That interaction is very, very important. And I see a lot of old clubs doing this consistently, but not necessarily the newer clubs, because what happens is over the period of time, much of it gets watered down. what we used to practice stringently when we started out Toastmastering several years ago, as we move forward, a bit of it gets watered down. So today I want to use this as a gentle reminder as to let's go back to the grassroots level to ensure that we have all these things in place. Because interacting with the speaker makes you understand this last minute assigning of evaluators, all those will not help in improving, because this is the lifeblood of Toastmasters. If evaluation stopped, if proper evaluation stopped, Toastmasters itself could come to a halt, because this is how we learn and this is how we improve. Now, rewarding, the next R, being encouraging. It's extremely, why is it that you're evaluating them? You want them to be encouraged when they listen to you. Oh my goodness, I have to finish this and I have to make sure that I fix my date for the next session wherein I can inculcate all whatever I heard and come back. This is what has to go into the mindset of the speaker when they listen to the evaluations. It has to be motivating. So this is what I always say, don't be a brutal Ben. Now, what do I mean by brutal Ben? Huh? Speech, you call this a speech? Now, the thing is, many people, what they feel, they just say, irrespective of how it goes across. And this happens even at the workplace, even at home, and even in Toastmasters. But in Toastmasters, we learn the art of being less brutal and more encouraging. So brutal bends become a thing of the past. So let's say that even at the workplace, if you want to give feedback to a person who's consistently coming in late to work, and you don't want to say that you're not putting in good work. Instead, what would you say if you are a Toastmaster? I notice that you have been coming to work late every time. I wish you would come in on time so that we could get more work done and it would be more productive in your career. Now, which one among both did you like? I'm sure that the second one, right? So brutality, less brutality and more encouragement is what we have to look at. And, or rather, that's what we learn in Toastmasters. And this is to the 10% of the non-Toastmasters out there. Now, the next off is don't be a rerun Rosie. Now, who's a rerun Rosie? Now, I've seen this happening wherein we talk about, you know, people being consistently, what shall I say, the nagging format. So you run and you rerun whatever you have to say. That is what we refer to as a rerun Rosie. So this is to the Toastmasters out there. Now, don't rehash the speech that we have just heard, because we have already witnessed the speech. I'll give you a technique in terms of how we can put it across as to what you felt and you heard, right? Now, moving on, the third one is whitewash Willie. Now, this is a practice which we have seen. I get this, you know, slightly annoyed when I hear this, oh, that was a perfect speech. There's nothing called a perfect speech. Every speech, even if it is given by a stalwart, has to have improvement. And there would be points to improve. When people say that I can't think of any recommendations, which means that you've not dug deep enough to look into what that person can improve upon. It's not, it has to be. So just whitewash, it's just for the walls. So these three things: don't be a brutal Ben, don't be a rerun Rosie, and don't be a whitewash Willie. So that was about the reward, and how you reward them is of extreme importance. So giving your response is important. And when I say your response, we don't collectively speak about the entire audience present. All of us have different ideas about things, right? So you are giving your opinion, your version. It's not advice that we're giving, but our observation of the same thing. And I've seen time and time again, evaluators, when they're out there, showcase all the energy on them. No, we are there to improve or motivate them, so the limelight remains with the speaker. And how do we do that? You can see it out there. Effective words to be used, and I phrases. Now, when you say that I loved it when you did this, and I liked it when you did that, you know, that comes across in a very, very, what shall I say, encouraging manner. Now, being specific and tactful, for instance, you cannot tell a speaker who has got, let's say, a tic, a nervous tic, that they have a tic. That is for one-on-one evaluation. There are two types of evaluation. One is face-to-face, where you do a one-on-one evaluation. Another is when you have it for the whole club and everybody is watching. So we have to have that respect for the individual, and that helps. That's why I said it ties in very well with the core values. If you have respect for the individual, if you exhibit integrity in the way you're doing things, it comes across because you are in service of that individual, and automatically excellence is established both from your side as well as the speaker's side. Now, look at specifics. What is it that you observed there? Now, when you say that, let's say a speaker has too much gestures, so you're saying that you were flailing your hands about too much. Rather than that, a constructive way of saying it is, if your hand gestures, I felt that the hand gestures could have been more purposeful so that I could have understood your message more clearly. So the positivity in it, the constructive nature of it, and it comes across beautifully wherein the speaker wants to imbibe that immediately. Now, the point there about recommending and reassuring also is of essence. Why recommend? Because if you look at your the ballot sheet of Toastmasters, wherein the evaluation ballot sheet, that itself is an acronym for bringing out the star quality in evaluation. So if you look at it, the S stands for the summation, where you wrap up with the highlights of whatever the speaker had done well. The T stands for the technique, whether it was motivating, whether it was reassuring. And the A stands for the analytical skills. And finally, the 4 stands for recommendation, which means every evaluator, if they make sure they have all these 4 tied into the evaluation, they can ensure that the speaker goes away feeling good about themselves and reassured that they can do it as well. The purpose of joining Toastmasters would be fulfilled for them. And always remember to leave the speaker on a high, feeling that, yes, I can do it because I have all these people around me to support me in this venture. Now, how to respond at a meeting? If you look at the slide in front of you, I'm sure that you have heard about the sandwich approach, and you have, the hamburger approach, that is wherein you have the bun on both sides and you have the fillings, which is the take-home value or the recommendations that we give. But according to me, I believe that it has to be an Oreo approach. Why an Oreo approach? Because you can see that Oreo right there. It's got the biscuits on either side and it's got cream-centered filling. Now, that is precisely how an evaluation should be. It is sweet on the outside, it is sweet on the inside as well. And how do we go about doing it? There are 3 types of Toastmasters. There would be the beginners. Let's say we can classify them as, the people who have just joined and maybe 3 months into Toastmasters. There would be the intermediate who have done, let's say, 4 to, let's say, 1 year in Toastmasters. And then there are people who have done +1 years in Toastmasters. So for the icebreakers and the speeches that are very, very, what shall I say, novice speakers, we would give them the 3-2-3 approach. And what is the 3-2-3 approach? You would give them 3 positives, you would give them 2 recommendations, and you finish off with 3 positives. So look at that, it's a layered approach right there. Excuse me. So for an intermediate speaker, you would give them 2 positives, have the cream filling of 3 recommendations, and again, 3 positives. So it's graduated because they are primed enough to receive more recommendations. As you move forward, you have there your, let's say you put in 2 years into Toastmasters, you have 2 positives, you have 4 recommendations, and again, you finish off with those positives there, 2. So 2, 4, 2. So if we practice this kind of response in Toastmasters meetings with the 3 different levels of Toastmasters that we have, it makes it easier for understanding. So I hope you like the Oreo approach and will practice it. So the evaluator mantra, now this is what I was telling you about, because me being an NLP practitioner, I like to put a sensory perception on things. So the evaluator mantra, what you saw, if we plugged in these three things, as in what you saw, what you heard, and what you felt, every evaluation would come out looking perfect. And how, or I use the word perfect, let me use, in a sense, it would be close to perfect. So what you saw, the poise and the posture. So what is it? Which is the way that they're putting themselves out? The hand gestures, because that's what you're seeing again, the position of the hands. Because even here, when during online meetings, it's a different ballgame altogether. And we try to ensure that the physical performance matters as well, given this small frame that we are in, right? The same way, apply, adapt. What you heard, the enunciation and the voice, the quality of the voice, the variety in the voice, whether we had the pitch was right, the volume was there, the pauses and the pace, everything ties in very well. So what you heard, you can evaluate those aspects. And finally, what you felt, in the sense, the impact the speech had on you, the emotions that it took you through, and the passion that we felt while delivering the speech, while they delivered the speech, as well as the passion it invoked in the others. So once you plug all these 3 points in, which means that the final product that you put out will be an absolute take home for the speaker there. Now, moving on, they say that feedback is the breakfast of champions. Now, while I'm here, I've already asked a few people in the audience, you don't know who they are, to give me feedback in terms of how it has been going so far. Because it is important to ensure that I get my feedback as well. And that is how I learn. Because whatever the way you put it out, it's in the way you put it out, you know, it's in the way you make the others feel that is going to impact. And I'll give you a small story here. When I started out Toastmastering way back in Kuwait, I don't know whether there are any Toastmasters from Kuwait in the audience. What happened is there was, I did a couple of evaluations there, and what had happened, during one of the DTAT sessions, there was this young Filipino girl who came running to me, and she told me, ma'am, I don't know whether you remember me, but you did the evaluation of my icebreaker speech. And I did not remember them, but she said, you are the reason I stayed in Toastmasters. And I'm telling you, that is more than all the awards that you receive for doing your evaluation. Those are the words that creates the impact, because you have been a catalyst to change somebody else's life. So this is why they say feedback is the breakfast of champions. And the more we allow ourselves to feed on that, the better it is. So it's in the way you say it. And I hope that all of us from now on will ensure that they plug in those 3 aspects and put out the best evaluation foot forward. Thank you very much. And over to you, Nimi.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Uma, for sharing that evaluator mantra.